Hello friends, welcome to my home. Today I thought we'd get started with making a science notebook. If you've never kept a science notebook before, it's really fun. I actually keep several different ones going at the same time. I use different formats for different things. So I'm just going to show you a couple of examples of easy ones to make. The first one is really just paper that I've folded in half. I don't know if you can see, I drew a picture on the front of it. It's a picture of a little leaf. So I just took picture from my paper from my printer and folded it right in half, and there you go, notebook. If you have an adult around, you can staple the back of it. I'll show you that in a second. So that's a really great option. So this is my first notebook. I just took printer paper and I folded it in half. And then I'm going to use my colored pencils to make a title and put my name on it and draw a picture from nature. If you have an adult around to help and a stapler and you want to keep it all the pages together, then one thing you can do is unfold it again. I'm just putting it on another notebook that I have just to protect my table. I'm going to take my stapler and put in just a couple of staples to try to hold the pages together. There we go. Excuse me. Now you don't have to do that. It's just a way to keep your notebook together. You could also have an adult help you punch a few holes in it and put yarn through and tie it together. That's another good way to keep your book. Another simple solution is to use a book. Here's a book that I happen to have around, a composition book. This one's lined, but it's got plain paper. It's upside down. This also works great. So something like this would be perfect. And lastly, we have the iPad or Chromebook type of device. These work well too. I'm going to show you in a later episode how to, a really cool format for making a science journal called Book Creator, which is a free program you can get online, works really well. But I like to start with the paper journal. And the reason why is because I really like to have hand drawings in my journal. It really helps me to look closely at something. So the one that I'm going to be using is this one. It's just a plain notebook that I found around that I hadn't started using yet. So I'm going to start a new journal so that I can journal along with you. I've also got a collection of things that I found yesterday in my yard that I was interested in. They've already changed quite a bit. So these are twigs that I brought in from outside. I'm particularly interested in what's going on here. These were just sort of red balls before, and look at them now. So I think this is my first observation. It's going to be this. Okay, so let's get started. I have my two notebooks here. I'm actually going to start with this one, and I'm just going to, mine have a couple of blank pages in the front. So I'm going to start by making a title page for myself. I'm going to put, let's see if I can get it on the camera here. I'm going to put my name. And a title for my book, and this is going to be my science notebook. And I'm going to say it's winter, spring, because it's pretty much late winter, early spring. 2020. So I like to work in pencil. I like this kind of pencil. I also like my mechanical pencils because I can erase. So that's what's really most important to me, is to be able to erase my work. So once I've got my title, I'll show you how I do a heading. It's really simple. So the most important thing I usually put on my heading is where I am. So today I am at home. And I put the date. So today is, let's look, it's the 18th. So I'm going to write it the short way. And sometimes I put what the temperature is outside too. Right now I'm inside my house, so I may not. But if I was outside, I would put down the temperature outside and maybe even a little bit of the weather. Today is really sunny and beautiful. So I'm going to add that. And then the rest of the space is for me to work and do my observations. So let's get my observation ready. So I want to observe, I'm going to take off one of these. I want to observe this. There's actually two of them. And as they came off, I already noticed some things. So usually what I do is I actually start with the drawing part. But if you're a word kind of person, you could definitely start with the describing part. I'm going to get another piece of paper just so I can see it really clearly. Wow, they're really cool. Look at those. So I'm already seeing something I didn't see before, which is, to me, this part at the bottom looks a little bit like it did before it all kind of burst out. It looks more like the bud part. So I'm just going to try to draw this. And I'll add some color a little bit later. So my goal is to get as many details as I can. And like it almost, as I'm looking, it almost looks like these part are little separate flowers, which really, I hadn't really noticed that before I started drawing it. And that's a big reason why I draw, because it really helps me notice. I'm not a great artist or anything, although I enjoy drawing. I think it's fun. But it helps me look as a scientist more carefully. I'm noticing there's lots of these small line things coming off with the little dots at the end. Now I wish before I'd taken off my things that I was observing, I wish I'd taken a little bit better look at how they were attached. I think they were attached down lower on the twig. So, and the bud part the end part was coming up. So I think that they were like this, but I'm not totally sure. I think I would look at some of my other ones to compare. And now that I am looking at some of my other ones to compare, I see, I'll bring one out, that's true. That there's these parts here, which are opening up, and they're on either side of this, and this is the end of the twig right there. So they're starting to fall off. So I'm going to draw the rest of it the way I see it right here. And again, the goal of this is not to be, it's great if you're artistic. That's wonderful. But it's really more to look closely and to observe as a scientist. Oops, sorry. My pages are taking over. So there's a lot of these. So I might even count them. I won't do that now because it would be tiresome for you, but I might do that afterwards to see how many there are. And I also might use a hand lens to take a better look. I'm noticing a couple things. So I'm going to add some color now because I feel like that would help me. So I've just got some colored pencils. If you don't have colored pencils, it's absolutely fine. Lots of scientists just use regular pencil drawings, so you don't need to. It just, again, helps me to look a little bit more carefully. So I see that at the end where it broke off, there's a little bit of kind of yellowish green there. So I'm just going to mix my colors, try and get that. The twig itself, pretty brown for most of it. Then on the end, I see two things. I see brown on parts of it, but then there's a little bit of green at the very end. It's sort of like peeking up. Mine's a little too green. Now, the reason why these caught my attention to begin with was the red color. And now that I'm looking at it, I see that it's red. It's pretty red at the base here. But then it's pink in the middle. So I'm not sure if I have a white pencil, so I might just make them darker at the bottom and kind of lighter in the middle. And then these parts, again, are more of that bright red color. There's a lot of sort of light pink on this one. Okay, so I'm also noticing the ends of these are really the kind of that same yellow-green color as the stem and the very tip there. So again, this is a little too green. I don't have a lot of different colors in my pack, so I'm just gonna make do with what I have. All right, wow. Very frilly, I'm noticing as I'm drawing. This is way too green. No, I'm not sure if I'm helping, but that's okay. So I'm gonna write down what I'm noticing. Okay, and you're probably noticing things that I'm not even seeing. So I'm gonna do some writing. So that's the end. This is green, yellow, where the twig broke, or where I broke it. And this to me looks like the end. And these, I mean, I have to say, looking like this, it looks like two things to me. It looks like a pom-pom, and it looks like a flower. So I'm going to write that. The whole thing looks like pom-pom, and it also looks like a flower. So I'm curious about whether it is a flower. I don't know. So I'll share with you some ways to find out. Usually what I do first, if I'm not sure what something is, then I will look at something that I do know is a flower and compare them and see if they have things in common or if they're quite different. But I already see some things that are in common, and I do want to kind of take a closer look at this. So I probably will. Okay, so the only other thing I would do, now some kids like to just take a sample and tape it right to their notebook page. You're certainly welcome to do that. But sometimes I always make sure that I ask a question. So down below my drawing, I'm going to add my question. And my question for today is this a flower? Because that question is going to guide whatever I do next to explore this and try to figure it out. And it's going to send me back outside because I wonder if I can find more. So I'm going to add that. I wonder if I can find more possible flowers, because I'm not sure. It seems really early to me to be finding flowers, but it also came from a tree, so I think I want to take a look at some other trees. And I have a last question, just as I'm standing here. These are some of the other ones. I'm just going to put them down to compare. I'm already starting to see some changes in these. So the white at the tips of that one, I'm seeing that these have a little bit more green showing. So I'm also wondering if these are going to do the same thing that did. So this was just like a red ball before, so it's making me want to follow these and look at these, continue to observe these ones that I already have. So I'm going to add one more question. Will the other twigs do the same thing? There's only one way to find out, right? Thank you for joining me. There's my first observation. I hope that you will share with me your observation. You can see I've got a little stuff on my notebook. I've got a little water. That's okay. It's not electronic. It's paper. It's one of the great things about paper. I hope that if you start your own science notebook that you'll share it with me. So you could take a picture and upload it. You could just write a little bit about it to me. Anything you'd like. I would love to see what you are doing too. Okay, so I just want to show you my finished Science Journal page. Here it is. I did get to observe a little bit more closely with a hand lens, so I showed you a picture of that. And if you don't have a hand lens or a magnifying glass, I'll show you a little cell phone trick. If you have a cell phone that you can borrow. This is actually mainly what I use my cell phone for, is to take pictures. So I took a picture, and I can use that to magnify it to look a little bit closer. So I just used my fingers to make the picture a little bit larger so I could see more detail. So that's a nice trick if you don't have a magnifying glass and you want to take a closer look. So thanks again for joining me today. I hope that you'll share with me something from your science notebooks. I'd love to have a look. Also, I'm curious what you think. Do you think what I looked at today was a flower or not a flower, and why do you think so? If you have any questions about things that you're looking at from your yard or from someplace outside, I would love to hear what your questions are. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.